So, what is a graduate scheme? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to go through everything that you need to know. It's going to be a full comprehensive guide. And if you're new to graduate schemes or you've heard about graduate schemes but you don't quite know what they are, then this video is for you. Now, real quick, if by the end of this video, if you are interested in getting onto a graduate scheme and you want to have a head start, you want to learn all the ins and outs and all the secrets, then I highly recommend you check out my premium graduate scheme guide in the description below. It's just the best course on the market right now. There's nothing quite like it. I've gone through everything, share everything that I know about graduate schemes and how I got onto my graduate scheme. I got multiple graduate scheme offers back. All of that is going to be in the first link in the description below. So, what is a graduate scheme? Well, basically, it's a job that gives you training on the job whilst allowing you to learn and make mistakes. It's kind of like an apprenticeship for school leavers or college students. It's basically the same thing, but just for graduates. And you're working on a job, it's just like a regular job, but at the same time, they allow you to kind of learn. There's usually like some sort of learning element to it, and you can make some mistakes. It's all okay because you are expected to kind of make those mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and you're not really required to have all that knowledge um, to begin with. Now, it's different to a graduate job. So there's two things, right? There's a graduate scheme and there's a graduate job. You can get onto a graduate job or you can get onto a graduate scheme. Now, the graduate job is usually just a regular job, but it's at an assistant level or it's like at a lower level, which pays a lot lower than graduate schemes. And it often requires someone who's got a little bit of experience or has a little bit of knowledge about that job role. So that's just something to keep in mind. You might see some graduate jobs on things like Indeed.com. They're usually not graduate schemes. They're more like smaller companies that are looking for someone a little bit cheaper. Let's be honest, that's basically what it is. It's just taking on someone a little bit cheaper. They know that you don't have that much experience, but they do kind of lean on that if you do have some experience, and it's obviously paid a lot lower, and they do kind of expect you to know what you're doing as well. The most common industries offering graduate schemes include tech, banking, engineering, law, and medical sectors. There's obviously a whole bunch of different industries that offer graduate schemes. Like every single industry that you can think of probably has at least one graduate scheme in there. It's like probably one company that's kind of offering it. But one thing to remember with graduate schemes, they're basically like training programs and jobs mixed into one. And obviously, for that, you need a big budget, and it's usually the big players, the big companies that offer graduate schemes. So there'll usually be companies like the FTSE 100, top 100 companies in the UK, or something like that, or like multinational companies that are going to be offering these graduate schemes because they have the biggest budget to be able to, provide the training and also provide the salaries as well. So, what is the application process to get onto one of these graduate schemes? Well, the simple answer is very long, but let's break it down because this is basically what my channel is all about. And I help people kind of get through that. And that's what my course is built for as well, to kind of help you get through this process because it is very, very different to any other job. So, first things first, you have some technical requirements that you need to fulfill. Typically, you need to have at least a bachelor's degree to get onto a graduate scheme or equivalent. If you're coming from outside the UK, you obviously will have to kind of show them the equivalent education that you have in order to qualify yourself. If you don't have a bachelor's degree, you won't be able to get onto a graduate scheme. That's just the base minimum level that they require. Now, the graduate scheme application is much more lengthier and difficult than a regular job or a graduate job. And the reason for this is because obviously there's so many graduates going through the graduate scheme process. There's so many people kind of applying to these schemes that they have to have a very, very long process. Firstly, to deter the people that are lazy, and also secondly, to kind of weed out the best candidates. However, I don't really agree with the filtering because you can be a very good person or a very good candidate, but if you make some mistakes or you click the wrong buttons, for example, in one of the tests, that you could be thrown out the application process just in an instant, which is why I'm creating this channel to kind of help more and more people because, a regular person just like myself who didn't go to a top university, didn't get the best grades, got my bachelor's degree at a decent level grade, but person-wise, I was lacking in a lot of things. And just because of that, I couldn't even get onto a graduate scheme. But yeah, that's just the way it is, and that's the only way they can weed out the weak. I shouldn't say that, but that's kind of how they look at it, and they just really want the cream of the crop. It includes lots of stages, such as an online application, online tests, interviews, and assessment centers. So again, just going back to that thing, they want you to go through the whole stuff in order to actually see who is fit for purpose. And yeah, so a couple of things to help you stand out would include tailoring your CV, preparing yourself for lots of interviews, and getting good at being confident and dealing with others. That last bit is very, very important. That is basically what a lot of people miss. They either lack the confidence or they can't deal with other people, which is a very important trait that they look at, especially when it comes to the later stages. Um, Things like interviews and obviously in your assessment center, that's mainly the thing that they are looking at. So what's the structure of a graduate scheme? The typical structure of a graduate scheme is it's basically lasts 1 to 3 years. Some graduate schemes that are open-ended, for example, the one that I'm on is tech consulting, so that one doesn't really have like a limitation on it, although they do want you to kind of progress or kind of move into a different role after 1 or 3 years. It's there's not like a big hard time scale on that. But a lot of graduate schemes do have a very specific time scale. So they'll have 2 years, 1 year, 3 years, that kind of thing. Usually they're about 3 years. And it gives you an opportunity to rotate in the different departments and roles within the company. So usually what they'll do is they'll give you a job role, which is kind of like a liquid job role. It can change around a little bit. They take you on as maybe like an assistant engineer, for example, but they'll move you into like a commercial department, the finance department. They might move you into the tech department. They might move you into the law department. So you're not kind of limited to one role because they give you a holistic view of the business, and that's basically what they're trying to do. They're trying to create you into like an overall like someone who has overall experience rather than something really specific. And then after a couple of years, they kind of ask you. A lot of schemes will ask you what area you like, and then you can kind of specialize into that. Training and development opportunities, such as working towards accreditation, that's another thing that a graduate scheme will give you the opportunity to do. So, for example, if you're on uh, a graduate scheme which is in the accountancy space, a lot of the graduate schemes will help you get your accreditation to become a chartered accountant. And that's a very similar story with a lot of graduate schemes. So they do really invest in your training. And usually for those kind of things, you need like a formal set of training, and they will usually pay for that and provide you that as well. So, what are the benefits of joining a graduate scheme? Well, firstly, the career progression is fast tracked due to the training and various experiences on offer. If you kind of compare all of this stuff with a regular job, you're getting a lot of training, you're getting a lot of exposure, you're moving around the business, you get to talk to senior leadership, that kind of thing. So, this obviously really gives you that all-round experience, and it fast tracks your progression when it comes to moving up in a company. Now, that's obviously up to you whether you want to do that or not. A lot of people have different opinions about that, but if that is something you want to do, you want to kind of move up in the company, get to the higher ranks, then this is a great place to start, and this is where a lot of the leadership in that said company would have actually started as well. I'm currently on a graduate scheme, and a lot of the leadership there have actually mentioned that they've come from a graduate scheme background. So they actually started on a graduate scheme, might not be in this particular company, might be in a different company, but they did start on a graduate scheme, and obviously they got all of that experience, and then they were able to move up a lot quicker. You get the opportunity to network, and you have more exposure to leadership. So just previously, like I mentioned, you just have more experience of talking to a lot more people. When you're moving around in different businesses, if you've moved around in 4 different roles, basically you've been in 4 different areas of the business, you're going to have spoken to 4 different leaders, right, and 4 different teams. So that just gives you a lot more exposure, a lot more opportunity to prove yourself and kind of get yourself in front of everyone and be more visible. It's very well paid. Typically, graduate schemes are paid much more than graduate jobs, and it's not even like a comparison. They're paid a lot more than a normal job or a graduate job or even a non-graduate job. Obviously, it surpasses the income that you can make with those jobs. You get benefit packages such as company cars, phones, loans, credit cards, Amex cards, things like that. That is something which is quite normal in a lot of graduate schemes. So, you could be given a company car allowance, you might be given a company card. It won't be anything fancy, like it is going to be something sensible, but the option is there. You'll be given a phone. A lot of the graduate schemes, if they have travel involved, then they do offer credit cards so that you can bill your travel and stuff on that as well. So yeah, you do get heavily, you do get a lot of benefits and perks. A couple of challenges and things to consider. Obviously, it's not all hunky-dory in graduate schemes. There are some things that you do have to consider. So firstly, very long and difficult application process. Again, I've mentioned this twice in this video, and it's very true. It's a very, very long and difficult application process. I've been through it. Many of my friends have, many of my students in the course have as well, and it just is the reality. There's obviously lots of reasons for that. Again, I've already mentioned those, but that's the reason why. I mean, it's not an easy process, and if you think getting onto a graduate scheme is just going on Indeed and applying for the job and going for an interview, you are very, very well. You're in for a rude awakening, I'd say. But once you kind of know the process, then it becomes a little bit easier. May not become easier, but at least it gives it, you know what to expect, and that's what these videos are for. That's what my course is for, basically, to lay that all out for you. It's very high competition. Even if you manage to get past all the different stages in the process, you still have to fight the battle with other people that are just better than you, unfortunately. And if you look at the bell curve of all the people applying, the majority are going to be average, and they don't want average. They actually want the top 10 or 20% of the applicants that are applying. So, that's just another consideration to take into account. Shouldn't put you off, but it's just the reality of the situation. It can be hard work balancing the theoretical training with the on-the-job responsibilities. So again, like I mentioned earlier, you will get lots of opportunity to work towards your accreditation, to become, chartered, things like that. And that is all theoretical training and formal education while you're doing your work. And the on-the-job responsibilities are not exactly, it's not like a walk in the park. You are required to put in late hours if required, really grind it out, ask questions, get things done even when you don't know how to do them, figure it out. And on top of all of that, you've got your formal education, which you need to pass these tests to get on, and have that chartership or that accreditation or that certification, that whatever it is that they are putting you through. So yeah, that is something to consider if you think that, I'm done with university, I just want to work. Well, again, in a graduate scheme, that's probably not going to finish. You will still have to go through some sort of education and, carry on. And that's a good thing for you. I mean, you should never stop learning. But if it's something that you struggle with, obviously that's something to consider. The office environment is not for everybody. It's usually very competitive and very political, and unfortunately, again, that's just the way office jobs are. That's probably not just for graduate schemes, it's for any office job. You are going to have, politics and just other people competing with you for same jobs and things like that. So, that is something you should consider and keep in mind. So all in all, I think graduate schemes are absolutely fantastic. Yes, they do have their cons, but they have a lot more benefits which kind of outweigh the cons. And I would say that if you're a graduate, definitely put all your focus into applying for a graduate scheme. If you can get onto one, that is the best thing, sort of best scenario for a graduate. Very high paid, very good sort of training programs and stuff like that. If you want any help with that, please do check out the course in the description below, and I will see you in the next video.